Guys, what's up? You're listening to the Bearded Talk podcast, where the goal is to help you take your dream to a sustainable business. I am ready for you guys today. First things first. One, the Patreon is doing awesome. So if you haven't joined or you don't know what Patreon is kind of like a really inexpensive way of getting free mentoring. It's where all my mentorship and all my editing tips, how I handle my hard drives, how I handle my business, every single thing is on the table there. You can go, link in the show notes if you would like to check it out. That's where it's at. Last thing is just a short and sweet episode today with a guy who's an amazing photographer, Jason Vinson. He's done a lot of stuff with F-stoppers, if you've ever been to that site. And his work speaks for itself. So if you go in the show notes and look at his Instagram, you can browse while listening. Check it out. Definitely glean some insights from him. Also, just because this is kind of funny in the creative community, he's still a PC user. There are a lot of PC users out there that make incredible work, and I feel like a lot of that war of Mac versus PC isn't over anymore, but I guess if I'm bringing it up, it's still important. So anyway, here's Jason. Love this episode. Hey, Jason, how's it going, man?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, dude. How's your season going? Are you busy right now? Not busy? What's going on?
We're pretty slow in the beginning few months. Took some time to I actually just got back from Texas. I had a workshop down in outside of Dallas.
Okay, that's awesome, man. How many workshops a year do you do right now?
Well, I was actually attending this one.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And I haven't actually done my own workshop yet, but it's kind of one of those things that I'm playing around with the idea for mid to late 2017.
Sure, absolutely. I tried to do one last year, and I didn't think I positioned myself as a teacher with enough time ahead of it to kind of make it useful. And so it was kind of like you make this announcement and you want to do it, and it's going to be a really good workshop. And then I was just like, no, I don't think this is going to be the best idea. So I actually canceled it.
Really?
I only got 2 people to sign up, and I just said, hey guys, like I don't think this would be worth your time or worth anybody's time. And so if you need any tips, let me know, or anything about the pre-game to a workshop, let me know.
Yeah, definitely.
That's awesome. What's is the weather in Arkansas right now like suitable for shooting? Is it just kind of crappy or whatever?
It's super awesome right now, but generally it's terrible. And so it's just kind of the crazy weather patterns that we've had this season. I think it's been countrywide, but usually right around now it's like freezing temperatures, and I think it's like 70 degrees outside right now.
That's awesome. That sounds amazing. Well, hey, dude, I just one of the things I love about you, and I think you have a lot of wisdom for, is honestly just getting paid to break the rules. I love your style, and I love your Instagram feed mostly. Just kind of like you're still a photographer that seems like they love photography. It's you also run a business and you're a writer for F-stoppers, and but fill me a little bit more about the gaps, about like where are you from and what do you do now, kind of full time, and how do you spend your time?
So currently I'm still full-time employed for Tyson Foods. So it's most people know what Tyson Foods is, like they do like chicken and beef and stuff like that. But I'm going full-time photography here pretty soon.
That's awesome. And then, tell me a little bit more, how many weddings have you been shooting, and how'd you get involved with F-stoppers?
So right now we're at about 10 weddings. I think we did 10 weddings last year, and we've got about 10 on the books for this coming year, and just kind of starting to ramp those up a little bit. And as far as F-stoppers go, I've been with them for about 2 years now. And it was just kind of one of those things where every once in a while they'll post an article, be like, hey, we're looking for writers. And so I just sent them an email, and I was like, hey, I'd like to do this. And it just kind of worked out.
That's awesome, man. That's cool. How many articles have you written for them now?
Oh, man, I'd have to go back and look. Basically, at least one a week for the last 2 years. So a decent amount. I skip a week here and there, but then there's also a couple weeks where I'll maybe do 2. So
that's amazing. That's super cool. Has that kind of been one of the main drivers to your Instagram and maybe, attention on your work?
I think it has a lot to do with f-stoppers, and then also just with the fact that my work is a little bit more on the different side from the average wedding photographer.
Definitely.
So,
Definitely.
I think that has a lot to do with it.
That's awesome. Are you aware that Wikipedia says that you're an American football punter?
Yes, I am. I've Googled my name a couple of times to just check SEO type stuff, and yeah, that punter always shows up first.
That is awesome. That's really funny. So how long have you been doing, photography on the side, currently overlapping while you're still hustling at Tyson's Foods? How long have you been a photographer?
About 6 years. 6 years as far as just like starting how everyone starts, where you're shooting everything from newborns to maternity to kids and families and weddings and stuff like that. And about 4 or 5 years ago, we really narrowed it down to just doing weddings and engagements, and then the little odd side job for kind of clients that we've had in the past or close friends and stuff like that.
Definitely. That's awesome. And your wife works with you?
Yes. Yeah. We started shooting together, and we always shoot together.
That's awesome. What's her name?
Her name's Chasnie Vinson.
That's awesome. I follow her on Instagram, but I wanted to hear it from you first on how to pronounce her name. So.
Yeah, it's amazing how many people get it wrong and how wrong they get it.
That's awesome. So, dude, tell me a little bit more about your style, and what are you thinking when you're going into a wedding and you want to make something unique?
I think just going into a wedding, I always have an idea in my head as far as wanting to make something different. Like, we really pride ourselves on making something different for every client. We don't want our clients to walk in and this is strictly for the creative portraiture stuff, but we don't want our client to go to another client's house and be like, oh, that's basically the same picture that they took for us, kind of thing. And so we always just try and get an idea of what the light's like and what the location's like, and try and get inspired by the surroundings that we have there. Either that, or I'll just have I have a backlog of just kind of like little ideas that I have in my head, and I'm just kind of biding my time and waiting for a situation to where I can use them.
That's awesome. What are you kind of doing to kind of practice and better yourself while you're in the creative element?
Just playing around with light, and not ever just seeing how natural light falls, and then also figuring out how we can kind of mimic that with flash, and then how I can kind of combine the two together. I've started playing around a little bit more with colored gels and things like that.
That's cool. How do you think your clients kind of feel about, this different style and kind of the crazy stuff?
At this point, I think they pretty much all really like it. Starting out, it was kind of one of those things where I was like, oh yeah, that's cool if you do that. We always kind of showed people like, this is kind of what we like, and it's really helped that we always just post what we like to shoot. And so eventually your client base falls into that category because they're seeing what you post. And so eventually you get to actually do what you want to do. And at this point, our clients are excited about it. A lot of the stuff that we do has a lot to do with light painting and long exposures and stuff. And so during the client meeting, we were like, you know what, we're going to take you away from the reception for 5 to 10 minutes. If that's cool. And at that point, all the clients are just super excited about it, and they actually kind of expect it to happen.
That's awesome. That is super cool. Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about your Instagram and kind of, how has that grown, and, what's your experience been on there?
It's grown a lot just through f-stoppers. I've written a couple articles just like completely Instagram based, as far as, some things not to do, or how I do things, or I'm trying to think of some other examples that I've written about. But, every time you write an article about Instagram, people obviously check out what work you do and stuff. And so that's always turned into a decent amount of followers. And then from there, just being super active, liking people's pictures, commenting, interacting with people that comment on my posts, answering questions in private messages and stuff like that. Because people want to follow you knowing that they're going to be able to actually interact with you, and you're not just some celebrity photographer that they're just looking at your work and they're never going to actually be able to talk to you. Definitely.
How do you kind of feel about the idea of kind kind of like getting paid to break the rules. That's kind of the guide I'm putting on this podcast for you, because I feel like your style is so unique, but you're, hustling and making it happen. So tell me a little bit more about that.
What do you mean breaking the rules?
Yeah, I mean, just, both, I feel like you and I and, a few others don't necessarily sit in the traditional wedding photographer world. We're probably not light and airy, if you will. And not that that's a problem, but that's not, it's not the most popular thing. And so being able to run a business on something that's not the standard, if you will, is a good story. And so I just wanted to kind of see, what your thoughts on that were, and, some of the challenges maybe we've run into doing that.
Oh man, some of the challenges is that clients, there's a lot more of that light and airy feel and that film look, and so clients see a lot more of that, and so that's what they feel like wedding photography is. And so you have to do a type of client education, if you want to call it that, as far as letting people know that there's other things out there, and you don't have to just do what everybody else is doing and getting what everybody else is getting, and it's okay to be different.
Yeah. Have you ever had a client that didn't enjoy kind of the weird portraits?
No, I mean, we've had clients that didn't prefer them, but they still ended up liking them. And I mean, the stuff that we post it's obviously not 100%. We don't shoot 100% like that. Like, the client still gets a regular type image and stuff like that. And so, I think our clients get kind of the best of both worlds as far as that goes. But as far as what we're drawn towards kind of the dark and dramatic and interesting light and things like that. And so that's what we post.
Awesome, man. That's super cool. What about, tell me, what kind of gear are you into right now, and how has that influenced how you shoot?
What do you mean, what kind of gear I'm into?
Yeah, like camera gear and stuff like that.
Oh, gear. I thought you said gear. Gear. Oh man, so I started off carrying around big Einstein strobes with giant soft boxes and stuff like that. And after that, I just got real tired of like off-camera lighting and stuff like that. And so I basically just stopped using it altogether, and I was 100% natural light photographer unless it was a reception. And then have you heard of MagMod?
Yeah, my buddy Spencer started that company.
Okay, so then you obviously know about it. So when MagMod came out, I got my hands on some of that stuff, and from there I've strictly just been using hot shoe flashes, and that's all I use right now. If I'm using flash, I have a MagMod modifier on it.
That is awesome. And then what camera-wise, what are you kind of into right now, and how has that changed?
I started off shooting Sony, and that was not the wisest of decisions. Since then, we've moved to Nikon. That was about a year and a half ago. We switched to Nikon, and then recently I've picked up a Fuji X Pro 2 just as a everyday carry camera. I had like the original X100, and I wanted something a little newer and a little better that I could just carry around every day that was a little smaller. And just randomly, I decided to try it out at a bridal shoot for half of the time, and ended up shooting the entire bridal shoot with that. And since then, I picked up the XT2 to do a review for f-stoppers, and so I was shooting the XT2 X Pro 2 combo for engagements and bridals and stuff like that. And at this point, I'm almost full-time Fuji, except for receptions and stuff. I still use the Nikon gear because the flash system on Fuji isn't really where it needs to be right now.
Sure, absolutely. One of your articles that you've written about the X Pro 2 versus XT2, I read that one a bunch, and a friend of mine who's actually on the podcast, Brian Minier, is sponsored by Fuji, or he's like what do they call it? A Fuji ambassador. And so I'm always asking him, I'm like, hey, so, Fuji has the X Pro 2, but they also have the XT2, what are you into? And he's like a hardcore XT2 guy. But then after I read your article, you were like, the XT2 wins, but I grabbed the X Pro. Which I thought was interesting. Would you want to tell me a little bit more about that, just for fun?
I think it just comes down to feeling. I mean, the XT2 has the flippy screen and the better continuous focus modes, and it has the larger EVF. And really the only thing that the X Pro 2 has is that hybrid viewfinder, which is awesome. But I only use it with the EVF. And so it's not really a reason for me to grab it. I just like that rangefinder feel, I think.
That's cool. That's awesome. And what Nikons are you shooting on?
D750s.
Same. Awesome. Very cool, man. What are you kind of hoping for, this year? I know you want to leave your full-time job, and do you have any other photography-based goals? Workshop, what does that look like, and anything else in the plans?
Yeah, I'd like to start getting my feet wet in a little bit more of in-person teaching. So I've been doing articles and stuff like that for a while, but I'd like to start doing some in-person stuff. I'd like to ramp up our weddings just now that we have more time to kind of dedicate to that, and then just to kind of fill in the gaps. I've really been drawn towards family documentary stuff, and so I'm going to start doing like day in the life sessions for families, just strictly 100% documentary.
That is cool. That's awesome. I love that. Now, does your wife work full time for doing photography, or does she just do something else as well?
Yeah, so she still has a full-time job as well.
Awesome. That is super cool. What makes you want to get into kind of in-person teaching, and is there a long-term goal behind that?
No, it's just something that I've always been drawn to. I mean, going to when I was in college for mechanical engineering, I did a lot of calculus tutoring on the side, and so I've always just kind of liked the teaching aspect. And then whenever I got into photography and stuff, I just kind of, I was just always still drawn to it. I like being able to help people out and help explain complex things that I feel like I understand, that I can kind of pass along.
That is awesome. That brings everything together. Looking at your work, and I'm like, man, he's really good at executing this part, and he's very knowledgeable about this, and the engineer mindset. That's really funny. Also, too, if you guys ever need any calculus tutoring, Jason is the man, I guess.
Oh man, not anymore. I haven't done any calculus for too long. I'd have to relearn it.
That is amazing. Not to make this too gear oriented, but why not? It's kind of fun. And I feel like a lot of your followers are definitely into gear, and photography is, you're also a Windows user, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about that. Have you always been a Windows user? Have you ever been tempted to switch? How does it fit into your workflow?
Yeah, it's just one of those things. I've always been a Windows user. I could get a similarly spec'd Windows computer for a lot cheaper than I can get an Apple computer, and I've never had any performance issues or problems getting a certain software that's only on Mac. And so I've never even been tempted to go that way.
That's awesome. That is super cool. It's fun to see, like, kind of I don't know, they're not even rebels. Like, it's not like you're trying to not try something, Apple-esque, if you will, but you're just kind of like, no, it works for me, and I'm staying strong, and if it's not broke, don't fix it yet. And I love that. The guy, Drew Gerarsi from House of Cards, he did the whole intro. He's still a Windows guy. And so it's so funny to see, like, this huge professional production and all these time lapses and stuff like that. And I don't know why people kind of think like, oh man, I bet that was done on a Mac or like in some big studio with a bunch of Macs. And he's just like, no, it was in my basement with my PC.
Yeah, it boils down to good marketing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That is super cool. Well, hey man, thanks so much for being on. I know it's kind of a shorter, kind of bite-sized one, and I'm glad that we could actually make it work, man. Where is the best place for people to go and find you? I'll link your Instagram in the show notes, but I didn't know if there's anything else that really want to show people.
Just you can follow me at the Vinson Images _Jason. You can follow my wife at Vinson Images, and you can also follow my stuff through fstoppers.com.
Awesome, man. I'll link that up, and thanks so much for being on the podcast, man.
Yeah, my pleasure.
That was so awesome. Love to hear Jason's insight. He's just a talented photographer, and he's an engineer, so he's like very to the point, and I love it. So make sure you check out his work and say hi. And lastly, if you could do me a favor, if you could go into iTunes and leave a review for The Bearded Talk, even if it's not a 5-star, leave a review. It really helps us just kind of break into the business category a little bit stronger. And I would love to know what you think, because I read every review, and you can message me if you think it's going to be different. So definitely leave a review. Thanks so much, guys. Have a wonderful day.